Kieran, this is an incredibly complex, delicate operation. The chief of Mossad has gotten the list of hostages to be released from the Qataris. They in turn were given the list by Hamas. We won't actually find out who's on that list until tomorrow, when Hamas brings those hostages to meet with the Red Cross on the ground in the Gaza Strip. They then bring them to the Rafah crossing in Egypt and hand them over to the Israeli Defense Forces, who bring them home. It's incredibly complex. There are lives hanging in the balance here, and I should warn you that there are distressing images in my report. Over 14,000 people have been killed inside Gaza since the 7th of October. The temporary truce too late for them, and too late for those buried in a mass grave in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza today, because the graveyards there are full.
These martyrs are unidentified. We have a team of 10 volunteers helping out. We'll bury these bodies. Because they're unidentified, there's nobody else to do it. Their families and relatives don't know they've been killed. We don't know any of them.
On the 7th of October, 1,200 people were killed in Israel. Of the roughly 240 hostages taken to Gaza by Hamas and other armed groups that day, 33 are children. At least 62 are women. Hamas say they'll release 50 women and children as part of the deal.
She liked to dance, she liked to sing.
Daphne, 15, and Ella Eliachim, who's 8, were taken hostage. The girls aren't praying that their names will be on a release list. We spoke to her yesterday as details of the deal were starting to come through.
We will do all for them then. They just need to be here. I want to smell them. I want to see them. I just want to see them.
Hamas will first hand hostages over to the Red Cross inside Gaza. After that, the Israeli army will receive them, and they'll be brought to one of 6 hospitals in Israel, who are now preparing special treatment units.
For each one of them, where is the best place? If we could bring them back to their home, in the kibbutz, let's say, with their beloved, that would be the best. But for many of them, their home was burned to the ground, and you cannot live there right now. And they don't necessarily know that. Some of them have seen their beloved murdered in front of their eyes. Some of them don't know what exactly happened. We need to be very calm to deliver the news and to find for each and every one of them what is the best place for them.
Sharuk Douayat was sentenced to 16 years by an Israeli court for what they judged was her part in an attempted stabbing. Her name is on a list of 300 Palestinian prisoners, half of which will be released by the Israelis in the coming days. The 150 are all either women or teenagers.
The Jewish people have mothers and children too. Just as we want to see our children back home, they also want to see their children come back and to have a deal. We have the same feelings. We are all human beings. Everyone has feelings.
Fierce fighting continues in northern Gaza. The IDF released this footage today. Part of the terms of the temporary truce is a commitment that the Israeli army won't fly planes or drones over the strip for 6 hours a day. And according to Hamas, the IDF have agreed not to arrest anyone in Gaza during the pause in fighting. If the truce holds, it will be a chance for Hamas and the IDF to regroup, and a chance for Gazans to breathe, to reconnect, or at least to bury the dead in some silence.
Paraic O'Brien reporting there. Well, joining me now from Ramallah is the former Palestinian Authority spokesperson Noor Odeh. She is the founding member and committee member of the Democratic National Assembly of Palestine. And Noor, if this goes to plan, tomorrow we'll have a 4-day truce. You'll have Israelis and hostages leaving through the Rafah crossing in one direction and hundreds of aid trucks crossing in the other direction. How crucial will that be?
Thank you, Kieran, for having me. These trucks will be essential. Gaza is on the brink of starvation, as UN agencies have warned. And so these trucks couldn't come any sooner. You have 700,000 displaced children. They are already malnourished and they don't have access to clean water. So those 4 days and the presumed influx of much needed humanitarian aid, not just to southern Gaza, but also to northern Gaza, where hundreds of thousands of Palestinians remain, will be essential to give all of those families just a little bit of time to breathe and to bury their dead, as your report said.
Not to forget as well, 150 women and children, Palestinian women and children, held in Israeli jails. What do you make of that?
Well, this will be welcome news for the Palestinian society at large. Palestinian prisoners, the issue of Palestinian prisoners is an issue that affects and is relevant to all Palestinian families, because the successive Israeli governments have had a policy of mass incarceration. The UN Special Rapporteur has recently issued a report saying that it is part of the regime of control when you have about 1 million Palestinians detained over the past 56 years. So seeing these women, seeing these children back home will be very welcome news. It will be something that will be on the scoreboard, if you will, for this deal, especially when you look at certain figures included in that deal, like, for example, Isra al-Jabis. This is a woman who suffers 60% burns on her body and has been denied medical attention that she needs, which is extensive surgeries. And she's on that list, and that will be a big score, if you will, a big welcome.
And Israel's starting position was that the hostages should be released unconditionally, without condition. That hasn't proved to be the case, has it? What do you read into that? Do you think that emboldens Hamas?
Well, I think what the Israelis said at the beginning was not realistic. And I think that the interlocutors, especially Qatar and Egypt, understood that they had to be the adults in the room, and they had to kind of work calmly behind the scenes to bring everybody down from their high horses and to talk about releasing the captives in Gaza and to talk about release of Palestinians imprisoned and detained by Israel. And that's exactly what happened. In fact, a version of this deal, a very similar one, was already on the table 5 weeks ago. Right. And it didn't pan out. I'm glad that they've been able to announce it now. And there's room in the announcement for extending that ceasefire, which I think will be crucial to kind of set the pace for more calm dialogue that is realistic and more responsible.
As you say, it shows the value of diplomacy. So do you see at all in this deal any hope of a political settlement or even diplomacy potentially leading to one?
Well, I think the only way to have a secure future for both sides would be diplomacy and dialogue and negotiations. You don't negotiate with your friends, you negotiate with your enemies. Israel occupies Palestine. It rules the Palestinian people against their will. And so negotiations with Israel is a must to end that occupation. That's the political horizon responsible states need to be looking at and working towards. And in a way that's different from what has been done over the past 30 years, which have not worked out, which we've seen has failed miserably, where settlements have increased and Gaza was under lock and key for 17 years. Okay. I think there's a very small window of opportunity. I'm hoping that it would be used to push things in that right direction.
We're out of time, but Nur Odeh, thank you so much for speaking with us tonight. Thank you.